सुकांक्षा वो पूछ रही थी क्वेश्चन आंसर्स भी होंगे।
ओके, उनसे कह दीजिए मैं ही पूछूंगी सब, बहुत नॉर्मल से होंगे, कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं
we
है।
are ma'am,
ऐसे
we are live.
हमारे पास
Sukansha, we are live.
ओके। Students are requested that while joining, please keep your mics muted. I repeat, please keep your mics muted.
जाने का।
Good evening, everyone. As I can see that few of our students are joining us. Let's take 2 more minutes and admit as many of you as possible, and then we'll begin with today's session. As we can see, our guest speaker has already joined us. We welcome you, ma'am. And one more request to all the students, kindly keep your mics muted while the entire session is going on. Please, it's an earnest request from everyone to keep your mics muted while the entire session is going on. And ensure that you join with the muted mics while you're entering the chat. Thank you. We begin in 2 minutes. Good evening, everyone. It is always special to have our students and faculty come together to talk about issues that are engaging and exciting, especially in the modern scenario that suits us. But what makes today even more special is the monumental occasion that has brought us here today. 26th August, that is Women's Equality Day. Now, the story behind this day is also extremely special because it was exactly 101 years ago today that for the first time in France that women were allowed a right to vote in the constitutional being of the country. Now, that may seem like a very small thing today considering we have equal votes and equal rights for women in almost every sector that we are in. But 101 years ago, such a thing was very difficult to imagine. So to have a right to vote was something was first of its kind as a basic right that was given to women. And that is why today we recognize that one step as something that we can call today as Women's Equality Day. Now, with that beautiful thought, I call upon our department in charge, Dr. Umang Tandon, to lead us into this event. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sukansha. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all on the occasion of Women's Equality Day celebrated nationally on 26th of August. Gender equality. It's not about clearing the gender difference, but providing fundamental human rights and beneficiaries to all the genders. Right from giving primary education to income provision, gender inequality stood for years like a parasite. Many of the successful women we admire today and throughout history are independent, women who have overcome adversity and challenged the status quo. Their stories have provided us lessons on determination and courage, and they continue to serve as role models for many of us to pursue our passion in order to fulfill our purpose and become independent. With this thought, we at Isabella Thoburn College, Department of Commerce, takes us the opportunity to talk about the importance of entrepreneurship among women from someone who has long been associated and made a mark of her own in this field. Thank you. Over to you, Sukansha.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I now call upon my colleague, Ms. Samia Farooq, to introduce our guest speaker for the day.
Thank you, Sukansha. A very good evening to all the participants in the webinar. It is an absolute honor and privilege as I'm going to introduce the very special chief guest in today's session, Mrs. Madhvi Kuckreja. She was brought up in Kolkata and a master's in international politics from the New School of Social Research, New York. Since 1990, she has spent 14 years in Chitrakoot district of Bundelkhand, Uttar Pradesh, working on issues of women's rights and the founder of a rural women committee-based organization focusing on building Dalits women leadership in order to enable them to access to their own rights. After handling the reins of leadership to local collective group, she moved to our very own Lucknow. Further, her work focused on building young Muslims women leadership through technical skills like video and photography. An activist to the core, Mrs. Madhvi has worked on issues of violence against women and communalism tirelessly for the last 25 years. Her journey entails and encourages true women empowerment lesson, and undoubtedly, she signifies as a 21st century woman. In Lucknow, Mrs. Madhvi has set up a crafts and weave store that markets over 150 NGOs and craftsperson, and also a cultural hub which organizes the annual Mahindra Sanatkada Lucknow festival. It is an iconic bazaar as it weaves a city theme into festival. Mrs. Madhvi Kuckreja is a mother of two and has been awarded numerous awards, including Distinguished Alumna by her college, Lucknow Management Association, and Rotary International Award for Women Empowerment, and also a Hindustan Times Award for Lucknow Andaz, amongst others. Dear students and faculty members, it's time to welcome the Lady of Metal, who is truly transforming the lives of thousands of suppressed women. So I welcome Mrs. Madhvi Kuckreja. Ma'am, please take the charge. Madhvi ma'am?
Yes, I'm coming on. Adab. Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am, you're visible.
Okay. Adab to everybody. And thank you. It's a privilege and an honor to be on this Zoom call with this Department of Commerce because, my God, you guys have something to teach me rather than me talk to you. So thank you so much, and I thank you so much, Dr. Tandon, for selecting me to come on to this. And I hope we can have a little interaction at the end because that will make it more interesting for me. Any feedback you want to give, any comments, any questions, if we can have a few at the end, it will be really, really nice. Because otherwise these Zoom calls really feel कि पता नहीं आप किससे बात कर रहे हैं, you know, you kind of feel you're talking to blank, you don't know how. Yeah. Okay. The first thing, I hope the people who introduced me don't mind, but the first thing that I would like to point out and maybe gently object to is that I'm not Mrs. And I would like to be known as Ms. MS because that's the first sign, I think, of inequality. And as it's a day of equality, I think I can point this out. I think our identities begin right there as we're Mrs. somebody. And we are not, we don't have, we either are Miss or Mrs. and we're not Ms. So I always like to be known as Ms. because it's neutral, and or just Madhvi Kuckreja. So next time, IT, I don't know. I hope I'll be invited again. I hope people remember that. And I hope all of you also think about that. We could go into changing of names and all the rest of that debate. But definitely, I feel I need to have an individual identity. Anyway, I am single. And so that's why I'm putting it like this. But even people who are married. I think this is really important. I think these are these little things which actually even go into entrepreneurship. And I'm going to talk about my own journey and the journey of my store and festival, to point out on how we've done it, what have been the challenges as women, and otherwise also. And so I'm going to talk about that. But before I do that, I just want to say that, it's really interesting because some sectors have women in them now, because there's a lot of change in this century. But definitely some sectors don't have women in certain roles. But so in the hotel business, you will have women in either housekeeping, or you will have women in the front desk. You will have less women in the kitchen. You'll have women serving now, definitely. But again, less women in marketing. Marketing also, there's something about a pretty face that people seem to want. So even in the sector, you will not have women in finance for sure. And general managers, I've got to tell you that in hotels, Lucknow, to my knowledge, has had one hotel general manager. Lebua had a hotel general manager who's now not there anymore. And otherwise, no 5-star hotel or 4-star hotel that I know have a GM as a woman. Yeah, maybe now some marketing managers and all that, but not a GM as a woman. So, I mean, and this is 2021. So in certain sectors, definitely. And I think, like, I also know of in Cherry Tree, one of the owners of Cherry Tree, that's Nayati, who's actually a chef, Nayatri Tajpuria, and she and Vishal, her husband, started this business together, which is doing really well, touch wood. She is a woman chef, and when she took her training in Taj about maybe 8 or 10 years ago, she was the only woman in a batch of 300. And I remember when she talked to us about that. And I mean, that was also like 10 years is not so long ago, because there were many women in the sector, but again, in certain sections. And even when in business, her husband was handling the finance part and she was doing this part. So, this division of how people perceive women is definitely, and how women themselves have the strength to get into business. So I think it's a bit of both. And I think a lot of the challenges of women getting into business is that we don't have the confidence to deal with money as much. And you're all commerce students. So I think, as you know, that the account section, I mean, even Sanatkada, which unfortunately, I'm going to start straight away saying our accountant is a man. And it's a full women's team, but our accountant is a man. And that itself, so, I mean, you guys quickly do your PComs and MComs and then come on board, because a lot of people, women don't like long-term careers in finance and accounts. Of course, the banking sector, I think, has changed a lot. And I think that, but the sort of regular accountants in shops, in small businesses, because there are not so many women around. And they, of course, then take up maybe the cream jobs, and so they go into further. So, I mean, that's really something to think about, that why in 2021 we're still in that space. And I mean, I don't know what you all have as career motives, but I do feel that one of the minuses of women going into business is because we are nervous of handling money. We don't have, generally, if we're from any sector, our weakest Achilles heel is, say, the knowledge of things like GST, legal compliances, balance sheets, all those kinds of things is something we're nervous about. Because I think it's a very old story. When we've never handled money. I mean, money was given to us in limited amounts and we never handled money like that. So the confidence with which men handle money or learn about money in a regular way is not with women. So, I mean, I think that is definitely, and I'm putting the negatives right in front. I think women are more fearful of risk taking. And definitely in entrepreneurship, that's a huge thing. And are nervous about that, because if you're going out into the world, it's often that you have to convince your family that whether it's your sasural or maika, that you can make your career your top priority, because you're supposed to have it as second priority. So if you have to make a business work, then this has to be your top priority as a woman entrepreneur. And the second priority business, I mean, is that okay, so you don't want to take that risk, because how will you're not going to get support. I mean, men might have many failed businesses, but women won't be allowed to have one failed business, and that's your last chance. So I mean, I think that's the psyche that is there behind women entrepreneur. And it's interesting if you look at the city, because I'm often on panels of women entrepreneurs. And unfortunately, again, we fall into the same traps. I mean, women are not doing construction business. They're not contractors. They are, because that's a man's world. They're not even heading hospitals or hotels, like I told you. So women, what businesses are they starting? They're starting, a clothes business. They're starting hairdressing and fashion. Again, soft spaces. It can be beauty parlors, can be done from the house. You can even run a chain. These are like soft sectors rather than the hard sectors. So women entrepreneurs are always in that. Maximum, they're doing some organic food or something. Food is another. Home food, of course, is a new sector. And I'm not looking down on any of these sectors. I think they play a very important role. But I'm trying to just lay out for you, because it's Women's Equality Day, that where we fall into the same kind of traps, the kind of shops, the kind of retail business we go into, the kind of businesses we go into are often of this kind, at least in this city that I know. And otherwise, you're a wife of someone, or, not even a mother. Usually it's a wife, and then, maybe your husband cannot for some reason run the business, and then you've come into running the business. So then you're the second person who had to take it on as the sort of daughter-in-law. Or I've had many people tell me, I just go into the business to keep myself busy, because that's a new, women want to work, they want to come out. But again, it's all this that makes your attitude towards entrepreneurship very, you're nervous, you're slow, it's a second priority in your life. So, I mean, I think that I just wanted to lay that out, and I'm sure you people have much more, many more things to tell me. But I'd like to now just go into my own journey. And I started Sanatkada. As you know, I came into it from another mix, because I was been out and working as an activist. So I didn't have that kind of fear of coming out or anything. I mean, I was older also. I was in my mid-40s. And by the way, I do believe that all people should sort of reinvent themselves every 15 years. So that's what I did when I started Sanatkada. And my new invention from Sanatkada, reinvention, is in the process now. And I had been working with violence against women in very tough terrains, and had moved out because the new team, the local team, has taken on leadership. And I came from Chitrakoot Banda here to Lucknow, and I didn't know Lucknow at all. And I spent 3-4 years sort of discovering the city. And I used to do training now on violence and gender equality and things with the NGO sector. And when I started doing that, there was something about, and Sanatkada falls into a category of social entrepreneurship, which is good and is often looked down upon also from the pure business people, because there is a social objective to it, to doing the entrepreneurship. And true, I come from that same background, and I decided, by the way, Sanatkada is Sanat, which is craft, and Kada, which is ghar. And I decided that Lucknow was a city that had a lot of handmade stuff, which was chicken curry, zardozi, that was the history of it. But with the mall culture and with different kinds of things, the fabric that had started being used, particularly for chicken curry and zardozi, was things like, for chicken curry, terry oil, and for zardozi, also mixed fabric, because that made it cheaper. That was for the mass market, and you would not anymore get pure cotton here. I'm talking about the early 2000s, even though there was a revival of chicken curry in the 80s and 90s with Seva and everything. But again, that was a very niche market. But in the regular market, you would not get any pure fabrics. And yet, Lucknow was so well known for its beautiful craftsmanship. I wanted to bring this craftsmanship out to people in pure fabrics again, pure threads again, and that's how I started Sanatkada. Now, when I started this journey, the malls had also come up. There was no Fab India or anything, and the difference, that's a normal question I'm asked, between a Fab India and us, we're very small and they're very big, but is that Fab India keeps the identity of only themselves. They also have pure handmade stuff, and Sanatkada keeps the double identity, one of the craftspersons and one of us. And here is what I want. It was really interesting when we looked at the craft groups, and I had some relationships with them because of the development sector and working in women's empowerment. I found that even though 70% were women artisans in many places, and some higher and some a little less, marketing in the craft sector was in the hands of men. So when we started Sanatkada and said, the craftsman's tag and identity will remain, and so will ours, and we'll bring pure fabric to the city, pure craft goods, everything handmade basically, and we will also bring the craftspersons here once a year in our festival. We found that there's something called the Berozgar Mahila Samiti, which is a big case study of tussar, weaving of tussar from Bhagalpur, and they do a turnover of crores. Dastakar helped them with a design and things like that, and they're really well known. But this day, they have 300 women weavers. Only the men come for all the exhibitions, or to all the festivals. So for a lot of people, when we had our first few festivals, we knew the artisans were all women, but even the groups like Seva Mandir, Sadhana, I don't know if you've heard of some of these names in Udaipur, are very well known for their weaving, embroidery, all women's group. But the people who would come for the exhibition or the festival were the men. And I just, I realized that in the marketing sector again, because craft is a very interesting occupation. Silai, bunai, kadhai is something that's part of a woman's life, right? Women learn it automatically. Now, whenever you want a woman, even somebody from marginalized backgrounds, you say ki aap log hum machine de denge, silai shuru kar dijiye. Without, any, of course, it's useful, definitely, for herself, if nothing else. But does the silai change anything in your life? In the sense of, Does it increase your mobility? Does it make you, it also just gives you access to very small amounts of money. Does it make you make choices? Does it give you opportunities to go to banks, to, to learn more about the market? No. Silai keeps you limited to your home, and maximum you give a middle person the products you make. In the same way, the craft sector, even in the beginning, the craft sector was very dominated by middle persons who would bring products of all quality and sell it to the tourists. When the 70s and 80s with Dastakar and everybody, there was this change, more 80s and 90s, I would say. Again, the same thing of the woman has, even to this 2021, got stuck in the role of working at home with the crafts. So she was always weaving like the Bodo women, or she was always embroidery was always her role. Chicken curry embroidery is all women. In Zardozi, it's interesting that it's men, but a lot of work is done by women at home. And often the women know the work, even where they're men artisans, because they're helping or they're doing something for it. And often in this thing also, the dirty work, so to speak, like the sorting out of the thread or, pulling things, is done by women rather than by men. And women would not come out into the market. And the craft sector has also worked the way it has worked over the last few years. Is a lot of these new groups that got design input, which were NGOs working out of rural areas, would have the market was the old traditional market, which was, you go, to the festivals, you take out your saman, you sell it, you come back, you go to 5 shops, you give your saman. It was not online. There was not that kind of selling with meetings and things like that. Again, a lot of travel was involved and a lot of out. So you'll have chicken curry workers, but they're not going to, they will not leave their homes. They're doing chicken curry because that's an option where you don't have to leave your home. And that's why no chicken curry artisan is famous today, because chicken curry requires 4, 5, 6 stages. You have to dye, you have to wash it, you have to do block printing, and except for some very well-to-do women who could come out and do this, the normal chicken curry worker would not do all these stages. And I think that that's one of the reasons why there's been no equality in wages, and you don't know the name of the women. Actually, they might be fantastic seamstresses, they will be in fantastic people who do embroidery, but we don't know them, even though we're from this city, and their name is not in entrepreneurs at all. And so I think that what happened is one realized that in the market there were no women. So in a very, in a very small way, I will say that we started Sanatkada with a group of women from marginalized communities of Lucknow, who themselves knew a little bit of, but the whole focus of Sanatkada was a marketing unit, that we would bring crafts from across the country here. And so we would market for people. We produce very few things. I mean, now over the years, because we get fabric, then we sometimes make, kurtas. We started cotton gararas, for example. Now we do produce a few things, but it's not more than 10% of our total thing. 90% is we market for others. So I'm and in our festival, we again realized that it was all men coming. And over 12 years, I'm not saying that's largely changed, but at least now 40% women's stalls have come. I mean, there have been women who've been in Parda, but they've come and sat at that stall because we've really encouraged them, saying, we're all women, we are there, we'll support you, and you will feel comfortable because it's us. And we've actually worked on them, gone to the station to pick up someone coming from Udaipur or Assam, saying, we'll pick you up, we'll take you to the hotel, and you will feel safe and comfortable. And I think that is a huge reason why women have slowly come out. I mean, I'm not saying that because, they're their own groups and they have to do their own journeys, but definitely our team is bindas. They go all over the country. They, we have little exhibitions. They go to Delhi. They've just been to Banda and Chitrakoot just on a holiday. And they're from marginalized communities. I mean, they have been to Kutch. They go around sourcing things, and they're from that background where there are many more restrictions. But I mean, I don't want to say only marginalized communities have restrictions, because I'm sure if I just tell all of you that there's an internship now in Assam and Kutch, and you have to go for a month to learn whatever business management or craft group. I don't know how many of yours parents will allow you to go, especially if I say Assam, Kutch and Gujarat, they might, but they'll say, oh, it's not safe, you can't go. And every time a team member joins us, it takes us a while to convince her family and everything that she must travel, that it's a non-negotiable, her growth will be stopped because of that. So I think that's all part of risk-taking, of getting to know. And we slowly built this organization. I must say that, be very honest with all of you, that our store is a small store. We're still one store, 12 or 14 years later, which won't be considered a big business. But definitely our festival has grown, and I don't know how many of you have been to our festival, and maybe some of you can tell me later. But we have the Mahindra Sanatkada Lucknow festival. And I think that has grown in leaps and bounds. And that's another festival that, nationally, I can say with pride that festival is run by all of us, again, largely a women's group, 80%. And mostly festivals are run by, management. They give the thing to different companies to do the logistics. The tent is never done by women, and security and all these kinds of sections of a festival are definitely looked after by different companies. But we manage the whole festival, and also the team is completely from marginalized backgrounds, women from marginalized backgrounds who run the festival. And I'm just adding a bit that the festival also weaves in a Lucknow theme every year. And we reflect our own, perspective in that. We do, one year the theme was Feminists of Awadh, and 1 year it was Husne Karigari, but of course the face of the Karigars behind all the products that you see. So we have, we believe in our perspective, which is women's equality, coming out in everything we do. And in some ways, you don't have to always say it. It just, when they see the whole team on the stage or running around and doing everything, there is definitely, you make a difference on people, whether it's the customers or whether it's the craftspersons. And it's interesting that the craftspersons say, ki, even if this is not the biggest festival, though, as far as our turnover goes in the festival, which is a non-profit event, it's gone from 7 lakhs to 1 crore in 84 in 12 years. And I don't know in facts and figures that you people study, that might seem a small journey, but for us, and I think for the Lucknow market, it's huge, because people believed in going to the first tier cities and not to this so-called second and third tier cities that Lucknow came into. I think third tier now, because second tier has become Hyderabad and Bangalore and all that. Not Bangalore, Hyderabad. So we have grown the market for crafts in these cities, and we have the artisans come forward. And I think that this has 2-3 things which I think has held us good, and I don't know if you can put it in any business case study, is that definitely people say that this is the festival with where you feel the most wanted, the craftspersons say. And I think that's something to do with the way women deal with people. And I mean, I'm not saying that men are not welcoming, but still, I think there is something about, taking care of people, of their health. And even in a festival, we had one of the craftspersons, a weaver, who 2 years in a row used to beat his wife in the hotel. And, 1 year we removed her from that room because one of our team members stays there at 12 at night. And she was with, and then the next year when it happened, she was not, unfortunately, I mean, of course, how can we decide whether she wants to leave him or not? But definitely he can't be violent with her. And we stopped him coming then from the festival. And a few gap years later, his daughter and son-in-law now come back to the festival, with his daughter having taken the business because actually both the parents passed away. And his son-in-law is an amazing person, so he comes. And so I'm just saying that, social entrepreneurship also means that you look at everything. Your relationships are not only built in finance, they also have a whole thing of equality behind them in every single way. So I think that that's something that remains very, very critical. But I think that times like this, COVID has been very, very tough on all entrepreneurs, but again, smaller business people. And we were not able to have the festival. The craftspersons really hurt. And every few months, we think we should close down. Can we manage it? And it's been very tough because what has the government done but given us a 2 lakh loan to cover this period where our sales have been not even 1/3 of what they used to be. And the whole economy is really, for all small enterprises, has been really, really tough. And again, as women entrepreneurships, there's not access to many loans or schemes that you have. So I think that has been very, very challenging. We have a restaurant also called Niyamat Khana, and this is all in Kaisar Bagh, which is food from the homes of Awadh. And that has done better. That has women in the team also, not fully women, and also women cooks who give food from their homes. And we have the restaurant. So I think that the whole thing of COVID has been challenging for everybody. But again, I always feel that there is nothing for, in any way, if you're unequal, whether it's, you're the worst hit. I mean, the big guys survive these times anyway. I think I'll maybe end now because I think I don't know how much I've talked for a long time, and maybe we can take some questions on whatever equality in social.
Of course, ma'am. This was really amazing to hear from you, and we've had a wonderful experience listening to you and your experiences and your insights. But before we begin with anything else, I'd like to offer my sincerest apologies for getting the connotations and the semantics wrong. We'd refer to you as Miss Madhvi Kuckreja from now, and would definitely be delighted if you would come back.
Miss, MS.
Yes, that's what I was going for, Miss Madhvi Kuckreja from now. And we would be definitely delighted if you would come back to something like this.
Thank
and
you.
Engage with our students again. So yes,
and,
definitely.
And I'll call you Ms. Sukansha Singh.
Thank you so much. So definitely we have had some questions from the students. They have been texting me and they have been telling me, and we would like to maintain a bit of a seamless conversation. So I think I'd like to take it on their behalf. I think the first thing this is one of mine, because you're addressing a crowd of these young women who will eventually make their way out into the world. Most of them having a hidden talent, or most of them having a talent not knowing, not very confident about it. and that might develop into something called, an entrepreneurship of sorts. So what advice do you have for these young women who are listening to you right now?
I really feel that you should not feel any sense of nervousness or doubt in being absolutely take all the risks and all the crazy ideas you have. Just do it. It'll happen. And I mean, maximum you it won't work, but then the next one will work. So I really feel that risk taking is something that I feel you're as crazy as the idea may seem. In your context, it might seem, oh God, how can you do this? Or you might feel also that how can I do this? But if you feel strongly about it, you feel passionate about it, and you want to do it, just like do it. I think, risk taking to me has been in my activism world and in my business life. I was very nervous of being a businesswoman because, this whole do good. I'm still not the ideal one, I have to admit. But this thing of this do good part of me, business people can never be like that. But if you feel strongly about something, just do it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. There's one question that says that what drew you towards the idea of Sanatkada? That is, you were into you were into activism before, and then you ventured out into the world of entrepreneurship. So how did this shift come about?
Yeah, thank you. I should have said that. But, one is that I had been worked in very bleak environment in Chitrakoot and Banda, and worked with women and violence against women and all that. So I wanted a real change, and you can see I like color in my life. And so I found that it was two challenges. One is that I really thought I could never do business. And so I said, okay, business, but I can't leave something that I've, believed in all my life. So that's why the craft sector. I mean, I couldn't suddenly start selling steel or something, or anything, or even stationery. I had to do something which was linked to the old sector that I had been connected to. So that's why I think it was Sanatkada. It was really just over one evening's conversation with some friends, and we said there was nothing in handmade. I mean, it's such a pity that Lucknow doesn't have, like I said, pure fabric and everything these days available. And and I just thought that this is the best. It's business, and that I have to give myself that challenge. And secondly, handmade, and a lot of women making the stuff.
Of course, ma'am. Okay, so one very unique question has come up to me that, whenever women venture out into something which is generally known as a man's world, they're often asked this question that how does it feel to be a woman dash dash dash? Suppose entrepreneurship. How does it feel to be a woman entrepreneur? Then there is a question of stand-up comics. That is, usually there are so many women who are venturing into that, which is also a different field. So they're also asked this question, how does it feel to be a woman stand-up comic or something like that? So do you get this question a lot, that how does it feel to be a woman entrepreneur because it's a man's world? Now, how do you deal with this then?
I mean, I get it a lot, and I think I personally don't mind it. There's some people who feel, there is a whole debate over this whole thing of also privilege, and how much that women have more privilege in the field. For example, you have the fact that women have to be dropped home at night, or maternity leave. And as a businesswoman, I find that this also hurts me, because sometimes it's more expensive. It's that amount of money that you spend in dropping people, or if you only hire men, it's much easier. So I think that one is that these privileges and being a woman and a working woman is a constant issue. So as I'm debating it constantly now, being on this side, I don't mind the question at all. I do feel that I feel the strongness of being a woman. As an activist, I would talk about sexual harassment very often. In this sector, I'm on a lot of sexual harassment committees. I've been on the TCS committee, Tata Consultancy Services, for many years. I'm on, Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, the Institute, their committee, PGI. I've been on many committees, and I feel that I'm a woman and I bring something to these committees, for example. So I feel that I like to answer the question. I don't feel people are looking down on me or saying, if they are, they are. I've got my own confidence level, but I feel that I bring something as a woman to the sector. So that's how I look at it. I look at this question thoda ulta. I'm asked always that I quickly answer dhar like this.
That's amazing, ma'am. Okay, so you've traveled a lot. You told us through your conversation also that your work takes you to so many different places. So there is any story from these places that you would like to share with us, that left a deep impact on you, or that, affected the way you work or look at life in any way?
One is my personal travel date. I spent 4 months in South America after my master's. Before I studied in America, and before I came back to India, I spent 4 months in South America. That travel really, really impacted me very, very deeply, because I think having traveling somewhere where you didn't have a phone, access to contact. I was on the tributary of the Amazon. We were in a real storm, and this thing of being somewhere. We were 3 women, and then one woman branched off. So there were 2 of us for a while, and 3 women in a place where we didn't know the language. We just had a return ticket, and there were no days of internet or anything. I mean, it was a phenomenal feeling, and in the sense of, it was fearful also, because I had high fever once, and my 2 friends went off on a trek because we booked for that. So, but I think this whole thing of you get a lot of sort of strength also from it, and you enjoy the fear also. This, and another travel that I would sort of like to talk, which is crafts related, is when I was in Assam, and I think the fact that this whole Bodo land, this whole area where the Bodo tribes live, and Bongai Gaon, there was a group ANT, that's one of our partner groups, and that area was really had lots of tension. They had the Bodo Muslim riots, and the Bodos themselves were fighting with mainstream Assamese for their rights. And the Bodo people live very, they don't reach out to others as much. And but the one thing that was fantastic in that whole area is they only wear cotton, and they weave their cotton for themselves. And everybody does that, even like, whether it's the little upper class Bodos or the poorer Bodos, everybody does that. And to me, just seeing this as just a part of life, it was really, really moving. And I learned a lot from it.
That's amazing to know, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us and your journey with us. I cannot tell you, but I'm sure everyone will share the same sentiments with me, that it was a wonderful session with you. And I'm sure you'll be having a host of interns lined up at your store after once this is over, because this really has been very impactful for all of us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing out time for us. And this was really, really wonderful. I mean,
we're looking for accountants. We're looking for people to make our business plans, look at our balance sheets. We need you guys.
Yes, I hope the girls are hearing me now, and they can just somehow listen to what ma'am is saying. And yes, definitely, I'm all up for it, that the girls would definitely be there at your doorstep, getting to know something from you, learning from your experiences, because just in one conversation, we have learned so much, and, understood what it is like to be an entrepreneur, start small and have that shift from activism to entrepreneurship and do something like social entrepreneurship is commendable. I mean, I am not in a position to, give you any sort of a compliment because you're way higher than that, ma'am, but definitely
not at all.
You have my deepest regards, definitely.
We always journey together, learn from each other. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tandon. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
It's a pleasure to have you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, we'd like to end the session here today on this note, thanking ma'am. The students are also there telling me continuously in the chat box as well as in the messages that they've had a wonderful time listening to you. So with this, I'd like to call the session to a stop and thank everyone who participated and spared their time. And let's begin by thanking our president, Dr. Mrs. E.S. Charles, who was the guiding staff for this particular event, our principal, Dr. Mrs. B. Prakash, who actually gave us this idea to start an event like this and call upon someone who would share their insights. I mean, this event wouldn't have been possible without her. Umang ma'am, for your constant support and encouragement, and of course, the star of the show, Miss Madhvi Kuckreja, who has been absolutely wonderful and so delightful to speak with.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. I wish we could all meet.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
After COVID.
Definitely, ma'am. We would definitely like to do something like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye-bye.